Good morning and welcome to my kitchen here in Birmingham, and the next few weeks I'm going to be making some Christmas dishes for you that I've tried out from the Slimming World book. So just things that I've changed myself just to make them more Slimming World friendly. I love mince pies, but nobody else eats them in my house, only me. So if I buy a packet, I'll eat all six. So there goes my sin allowance for the whole week. So I wanted to find other alternatives because I don't want to miss out on my mince meat. So I wanted to find some alternatives. I'm going to start off first of all with the swirl. So that's this one here, mince meat swirl. So it's an enriched dough, so it's a sweet bread. And normally we add sugar and butter to it, but I'm not adding sugar and butter. I've just changed it about a bit to add a sweetener instead. So in here I've got 200 grams of strong bread flour. Now the bread flour that I use is, the reason we use it is because it's really good to help it to rise, and it's a bread, so you need the bread flour, okay? So 200 in there. Now you can double this, treble this, whatever way you want, but it's always twice the amount of flour to water. So 200 of flour to 100 of water. I'm going to add a packet of the fast action dried yeast because we want it to rise quickly. So it's one packet per 200 grams. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of mixed spice just to add a bit of flavour to the dough. And then I'm going to add a teaspoon of sweetener, a nice big teaspoon of sweetener, because I don't want it too sweet because you've got the sweetness in the dough. And I'm just going to mix that around. I'm just looking for my water. I'm just going to mix that up. The mixed spice is mixed in like that. Then I'm going to add 1 egg yolk, okay? And that enriches the dough. That makes it a richer dough and gives it more flavour. And then I'm going to add about 100 millilitres of warm water. Now the water, it's really important that the water is warm, because if not, the yeast doesn't activate. I'm not going to bore you with loads of science like I would at school, if I was at school, but the yeast won't activate if the water's not warm, so then your bread swirls won't rise. So make sure it's nice and warm, and if it should be clumpy, if you need a little bit more, just add a little bit more. Sometimes it depends on the make of the flour. Different supermarkets' flour take different amounts of water. So that's what it should look like. It should come together like a soft dough. So get your hands in then and just squeeze it together. Don't worry if it's sticking to your hands a little bit, that's okay, because it will come off. You should have a lovely clean bowl after this. That's how you know your dough is right. Just take it, get it off your hands. Keep moving it around, squeezing it together, and it should be lovely and soft. And there we go, that's my dough there, okay? Just going to move that over out of the way. And then I'm going to knead this. So this is, you stretch it with the heel of your hand, you stretch it, because what we want to do is we want to stretch the dough so that the bread will rise. If we don't stretch the dough, the bread won't rise and it'll break. Look, it'll be broken. So we want a nice stretchy dough. Now you need to stretch this for about 10 minutes if you want a good stretchy dough. And I'm not going to stretch it for 10 minutes because I'm not going to stand here and bore you for 10 minutes. So I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the table. Now remember, don't put too much flour on the table because your sins are already included in this. So you don't want, the more flour you add, the more sins that you're going to have on there. And a little bit of flour on the rolling pin so that I don't So this is stretching a bit, but it's not as stretchy as my last one. I've got one in the oven now to show you. So, but if I needed this for a good 10 minutes, it would be lovely and soft and lovely and stretchy. But I don't want to stand, like I said, and bore you for 10 minutes. So, I'm just going to pull that out. I want a rectangle. When you stretch yours, it shouldn't break because you've kneaded it properly. So I'm going to roll it out there. And we want it in a bit of a rectangle. It doesn't have to be exactly a rectangle. And then we're going to add our mincemeat. So 2 tablespoons. Now this is not a tablespoon I'm using now, but I'm just, this is a dessert spoon, so there'll be 3 of these. So spread it out as near to the edges as you can. But just leave a little strip around the edge. Okay. And then I'm going to spray some spray oil or spray butter as a glue to help it to stick. And then I'm going to roll up my dough like that. I'm just going to pop it on a board because I want to cut my table. And then I'm going to cut it in half. And I've got myself a round tray. You don't have to put it in a round tray. You can put it straight on a baking tray. I just like these because they're handy. I'm going to spray that so that my bread doesn't stick to it. And then I'm just going to cut the edges off just to tidy it up. And then cut it into 8. So I normally cut it in half and half again, just to try and get it as even as I can because of the sin value. I want to try and get them the same size. And then we're going to turn them up like that. Pop them onto your tray. And just press them down a little bit. Just wipe my hands. And then I'm going to pop, so that's what they should look like there. I'm going to pop those, you should get 8 out of it. I'm going to pop that now in the grill. So the heat from the oven will help the dough to rise. Just put that there. I'm just over at the sink in case you're looking for me. Just going to wipe down the table. And I've got some already in the oven, so I'm just going to check on those. And they're cooking away in there. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave them in the grill to heat up to rise for about half an hour. If you haven't got a grill like I have, you can just put them on the top of the cooker and cover them with a tea towel. It's just to help them to rise. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, so I'm doing the things that take the longest first. Next thing I'm going to do is the baked oats. So that's these little fellas here. And they've got some in the oven already and they're absolutely delicious. I could have them every morning for breakfast, don't mind Christmas. They're the sort of thing that you could change around, change the flavour, the toppings for if you don't want. So you might have jam if you wanted jam on it, or you could have chocolate spread or some other sort of spread. Marmalade would probably be lovely on it. So you don't have to have mincemeat if you like them. So you use your Healthy Bee porridge oats, 40 grams. Okay, and then I'm going to add half a teaspoon of baking powder because it helps it to rise, to make it a bit like a cake texture. I'm going to add 1 egg. Again, the egg helps it to rise but helps it to bind together. 100 grams of yogurt. Now I'm using Greek yogurt, fat-free Greek yogurt, because it's a pound for a great big tub. You can use flavoured yogurt if you want, but obviously you have to add the sins, add more sins for that. And then I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of sweetener and then mix it all together. So as you can see, It looks just like porridge really, with milk in it. Those of you that have done baked oats before will know what I'm talking about. Just get the egg well, make sure you beat the egg well into it, because it'll help it to rise. Okay? Then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray the bottom of my tray with some spray oil, the edges and the sides, a muffin tray, and then I'm going to put a teaspoon of mince into the bottom of each one, because you get 4 out of this. And believe me, I mean, a teaspoon's plenty in here. Okay, and then you spoon your oats in. That's it, try and get them all the same. Just flatten it down a bit. And that's it, that's that one. That's your baked oats, your Christmas oats. So I'm going to pop that in the oven now. Goes into the oven at gas 5. I'm just going to have a check and see if the one's ready. So that's the swirls. They're cooking away in there. So I left them to rise. They're cooking away. I don't want to burn them. And then I've got the baked oats there. Let's just have a check. Not quite done. I'm just going to pop those in. Just move that over there. Just going to leave those in for another little bit. That's your Christmas breakfast oats that you could have any time of the year. And the next thing I'm going to do is the baked apple, because it takes a good 15 minutes to do the baked apple. I've got this one here now. I got these out of my oh my garden. I've got an apple tree, so I know it doesn't look great, but it tastes delicious. But you can just, this one, you could use 2 of these, or 225 grams. So it depends on the size of the apple that you want. I like apple, but I don't like too much, so I didn't want a huge apple. So get a core, an apple core, just a knife, and core out the middle. Make sure you've got all the core. Now I like to put an extra slice in it, because it's hard to get the mincemeat into it if you just have one. And then you're going to spoon your mincemeat in. This is so easy. I'm definitely doing this myself for Christmas Day, because these could be in the oven cooking while we're sitting having the dinner. Pop that in there like that. So you just need 1 tablespoon. I'm using the teaspoon to get it in because the hole is small. Okay, and I'm going to pop that on a baking tray, and then pop that into the oven. Okay. Now, the next one I've got then is phyllo pastry. It's a bit of a whirlwind, isn't it? But so a whole packet of phyllo pastry is 7.5 cents, which I think is amazing, because there's 12 sheets in it, so they're just over about a cent a sheet. So with the phyllo pastry, you have to work quite quickly with this, because it dries up very easily. And if it dries up, it starts to break. So I'm just going to take off. I normally just take out what I'm going to use and put the rest back on until I'm ready. So take off 2 sheets. I'm just going to roll that back up. So you've got your 2 sheets here. Okay. Then I fold the sheets over like that. Okay. Just going to move my table a little bit. And then you can use the scissors or a knife to cut it. I use the scissors because I find it easier to cut. Okay. And then I'm going to fold it over this corner here up until I make a triangle. So that when you've got like a triangle there. That's what it should look like. And then fold it over again. So you should get 4. Out of these 2 sheets, you should get 4. Okay. And the same with these 2. Fold it over. So you've got 4 sheets there. And then I'm just going to get my muffin tin. I'm just going to grab this one. And put them in here. So I'm going to spray. Make sure you spray your muffin tin with spray oil, because if not, the pastry will stick to it. And then I've got my pastry. So I take one and put it like that, so that you've got one overlapping the other, a bit like a star. And then press it down into your muffin tray. So they're a bit like a star. Press it right down. You could use 1 sheet of phyllo, but it's very thin, and I think the mincemeat will go through it, so that's why I use 2. So you've got 8 sins, I think it is for this as well. Sorry, 6 sins for 4 tarts. It's about a sin and a half each. Then I'm going to add my mincemeat, so teaspoon in there. It. Got some more here. So I've used, to do this, I've used nearly a whole jar of mince. So you get quite a lot out of it. Pop those in there. Get some more. And then, really important, make sure you spray the pastry with plenty of spray oil, because normally when you do phyllo pastry, you brush it with hot oil or melted butter in order for it to go brown and crispy. But we won't be doing that because we're on Slimming World. So, but we still want the same effect. Okay, so I'm going to pop that back in. And I'm going to check on my bread. So you'll know it's cooked when it moves off the tray. So see the way it moves off the tray? I'm just going to check the bottom of it, and that's lovely. Put that there. Okay. And then last but not least, we've got our meringue. So this is a bit like a baked Alaska. Just going to get a drink. Thirsty word. This is a bit like a baked Alaska, except we haven't got the sponge. So I've put my mincemeat in the bottom there. That's a tablespoon. And then I've got 1 egg white. I'm just going to pop that in there. So the egg white, you need to make sure that your bowl is clean, your whisk is clean, and there's no eggshell or egg yolk in the egg white, because the eggshell and the egg yolk have fat on them, and the egg white won't whisk if it's got fat on it. So you need to make sure that you've got no fat. So I'm just going to whisk that up. And we're trying to incorporate as much air as possible into it. Now, when I was doing this earlier to set up for the dem, I thought about how else I could use my apples, because I've got an apple tree, I've got tons of apples, and I've actually cored an apple and cut it in half, filled it with mincemeat, and I've topped it with the meringue, so I'm going to have a go with that, because that might be a really nice one to have on Christmas Day. Because I don't know about you, but after I've had my starter and main course, I don't really want something too heavy. But I want the traditional things, you know, like the mince pie or the Christmas pudding. So this sort of covers that. So I'm just going to check the other ones in the oven. So I don't want to burn them. Oh, here we go. Just grab those. I'm really lucky I've got 2 ovens. So just whisk that up. And we want it thick, so that's too runny. You don't want it to run off the twist. You want it nice and thick. If you have a machine, you could use a machine, but I can't be bothered to get the machine off the 1 egg white. So again, we want it nice and thick. Okay. And then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of sweetener to help thicken it, but also sweeten. You don't need too much sweetener because this is quite a sweet dessert. But the sweetener helps the egg white to hold its shape. Okay, and then another one. Mixed in, so you should have a nice thick, see the way that's nice and thick and it's staying on the whisk. So I've got my mincemeat in here, and then I'm just going to spoon my egg white into the top. And it's as simple as that. Simple as that. Then I'm going to pop it on a tray. Try not to kill myself. Because it's easier to get them in and out of the oven if you put it on a tray. And I'm going to pop that into the oven. So move that apple. Okay, there we go. So, finished products, let's have a look what we've got. We've just got some plain white plates. I got some squirty cream. I think it's, I can't remember now what the sin value is on it. I meant to look it up earlier. But I think it's about 25 grams for a couple of sins. But I'll put that on later. Sorry about that. So I've got over here, I've got all my bits that have just come out of the oven. So let's start first of all with the apple. So I've got my baked apple there. So you can cut it if you want, you can serve it like that. You could serve it with some ice and sugar on it. If you want a bit of snow, you could always grate some orange. Just put it around it if you fancy just doing something with a bit of fruit. You could serve it with yogurt if you wanted to. So I tried this yesterday with the baked apple yogurt from Marks and Spencer's, and it is just amazing. So the baked apple with the baked apple is really good. And you can just serve that then. Then the next one, that's my meringue with the mincemeat in the bottom. So that doesn't need anything else because it is very sweet on its own. And here I've got the apple meringues. So this just came to me as I was cooking, as I was getting the one meringue ready. So I've got an apple that I've cut in half, cored it, then filled it with the mince, and then I've put the meringue on the top. So that's really nice. And you can serve that with 25 grams of squirty cream. So I just put my tray on and oh, that's only 20 grams of squirty cream, and that looks a lovely decadent dessert. And then I've got the swirly braids, so I'm just going to turn those out. Hopefully they'll pop out of the tray. Pop those. So they should easily, you can tell that they're cooked because they just come off the tray. They sort of bake themselves off it. And I'll just grab another plate. And these would be lovely for Christmas morning. Sit and have them with a cup of tea, and they're lovely and soft and sort of spongy. And you could serve those with cream again, but I'm just going to shake some snow on them. Hopefully we get some snow for Christmas. Anything's possible in 2020. And then finally, we've got our phyllo tarts. So these just pop out, and you have to be very careful with them because they're quite crispy. And you could serve those with yogurt. Or with the squirty cream. You could put some yogurt in them if you just wanted to serve them like that. And there you've got your phyllo tart. So I know that was a bit of a rush. It's my first time. Probably a bit too fast, but at least you've got it on video so you can replay it again. I'll be on Facebook later if anybody wants to ask me any questions, and I'll put the recipes on as well. But enjoy your mincemeat and happy Christmas. Thank you.